Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome to the Back of the Range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 230. My guest on this episode is Gene Elliott. Much like Geronimo Esteve, who was my last guest here at the Back of the Range, Gene had an incredible 2021, and he was also a previous guest here at the Back of the Range. Therefore, you know that every single episode is available at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can find them all by going to thebackoftherange.com. You know this already, but I'm just reminding you. So go check out episode 27. Way back in 2018 is when Gene first joined me here at the Back of the Range. We spoke about his time playing professionally on the European Tour. He actually worked with David Ledbetter for a time. And then ultimately we discussed the massive success that he found as a senior amateur. As I said, Gene had himself a year. In fact, he did something that very few men in the history of the game can say that they have accomplished. And I don't mean the amateur game. I'm talking the history of the game of golf. I'm talking Hogan, Woods, Bobby Jones, and now Gene Elliott from West Des Moines, Iowa, joins the list of men that have won a USGA championship and a R&A championship in the same year. You see, Gene is the reigning 2021 US and R&A senior amateur champion. So during this episode, Gene shared stories from both championships. You know, normally we hit upon the perseverance and the dedication it takes to win these championships. You know, that seems to be a common theme. But when you hear what Gene and his wife Delana had to go through just to tee it up in the British Senior Amateur, well, this episode's unbelievable. Let's just say that. Not just for what Gene accomplished on the golf course. That's a whole different category. But everything else, unbelievable. Before we get started, Gene was also named, obviously, Global Golf Post's Amateur Player of the Year. Jim Nugent and his entire team over there at GGP, they do phenomenal work each and every year, each and every week, covering the amateur game. Sean Fairholm wrote an incredible piece on Gene, which is worth a read. So I have put a link to that article in the show notes of this episode. So please go check that out. So let's get started. Gene, great to have you here again. Welcome to the Back of the Range. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Ben. I'm kind of shocked that I'm on again after 3 years.
You're shocked that you're on again. Really? Is that how you're starting this thing off after the year you had? You're shocked. Just shock and awe. Shock and awe.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm just shocked at the whole year, I guess.
Well, that's a better way to start. I mean, yes, I can give you that. I will allow that. But no, there's no reason for you to be shocked that you are returning to the Back of the Range after your 2021, which we will talk about. And it's kind of poignant. We're having this conversation the day before Thanksgiving. Do you have anything to be thankful for this year?
You know, I had a little run walk this morning, and I got to thinking, yeah, tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and I thought, wow, do I ever have a lot to be thankful for? So, yeah, this is going to be a little bit more special Thanksgiving. So, I'm still pinching myself about all this.
Now, I know you're down here in South Florida and you got the family coming in, and, is this going to be a big Thanksgiving dinner table with a couple key, centerpieces on the table, or you're not going that far? You're not putting trophies on the Thanksgiving dinner table, are you?
Well, it is going to be a big celebration, but because we're going to have all our kids here and a couple of the girlfriends too. So, but the trophies are up in Iowa, and I actually, before I came down to Florida, I took them to the Iowa Golf Association. So right now they're being housed at the IGA.
Well, that's I know that you're a big supporter of the Iowa Golf Association as a Hall of Famer, inducted back in 2012, and I'm sure that everyone there is thankful to have those trophies. And adding to their trophy case for at least for the next 12 months, that's got to be pretty special for everyone that stops by there. So, well played. And plus, those things are too big to travel with, right? That's not you can't roll with those things all over the place.
It's funny. They come in these elaborate cases, and
Yeah.
the one from the R&A, they were very, they're where are you going to put it? What kind of kind of, and the case came and it was like 29 pounds, the case and everything it's in. But then the US senior came and that was 57 pounds, the case and the trophy and everything with the base. And so they're not really that easy to haul around. So,
No.
If you're going to put them somewhere, they're probably going to stay a while.
Yeah, I would have told the guys at the R&A, said, well, my local watering hole, Applebee's, there's a nice place at the end of the bar I can put that. And no, don't do that. That they wouldn't like that very much. Well, we'll talk about those two as people are probably starting to figure out right now. You in 21, all you did in 2021, as along with a couple other wins, all you did was win the U.S. Senior Amateur and the British Senior Amateur in the same year. That's all, and just added your name. I believe it's you and Mr. Bobby Jones and Mr. Tiger Woods, and I know I'm probably missing someone else, but I remember a graphic on Golf Channel, your name along with those two as the only two in the modern era to win a USGA and an R&A title in the same year. Do you remember the other names on that list, or should we just stop at Bobby Jones and Tiger Woods?
Well, there was a few other names on the list, and I mean,
when you see that flash up on Golf Channel, as someone that's used to sitting on their couch and just flipping through the channels and just watching, I mean, how many hours of Golf Channel have we all watched in our lifetimes? But you pop that on and your name flashes in the screen. I mean, what do you do then? Do you just get up and get out of the room, or you just sit there and stare at it blankly? Do you rewind it? What do you do at that point?
Well, that was during an interview with an afternoon show on the Golf Channel. Okay. And so it was a live show. I was doing it out of my office in Des Moines. And they threw that up there, and they're like, look, you're up there with Tiger Woods and Ben Hogan and Bobby, and I'm right. Just like, I was too nervous just being on live TV,
right,
and to really have it sink in. But that's just crazy. I don't even know what to say about it.
Well, kind
of speech.
Yeah, there's nothing else you can say. It's an incredible accomplishment. Now, you were first on the back of the range way back, episode 27, which is that's crazy too. Back in 2018. So for people listening, there's a lot that we covered back in that episode. We talked about Gene's start in the game, growing up in Iowa. A lot of your great accomplishments, as we've just talked about with the Iowa Golf Association, winning amateurs and opens and mid-ams and a brief stint playing on the European Tour, working with David Ledbetter. A lot of great information in that episode. And then kind of your start in senior golf. We talked about, different events that you've participated in and won and friendships along the way. So, due to time, we're not going to rehash a lot of that, but I invite everyone to please, pop back into that episode. And if nothing else, listen to how I was doing episodes back in the 20s and 30s. And, I was just nervous talking to you at that point. So people will probably have a nice little chuckle listening to that just alone, and not alone just listening to your accomplishments, but they'll get to kind of see how I was doing back in 2018. So for that reason, I'm not going back to listen to it, Gene. But
no, I was very honored back then to be on, and I thought you did a great job. So I didn't see any flaws or anything in
I greatly appreciate that. Well, I definitely want to, before we dive into just this year, I definitely want to give listeners also a link to go, and I'll put that in the show notes of this episode, but go check out globalgolfpost.com. Had some great articles written about you this year, and also recently named you Amateur of the Year. So I congrats on that, and obviously well deserved with what you've done. You mentioned being nervous on a live spot on Golf Channel. When you got the news that you were Amateur of the Year, how'd that go over?
Well, we finished the U.S. Senior in Detroit, and after all the ceremonies and everything, we packed up our stuff and started to drive back to Iowa, and it was 4:00 in the afternoon, and we had planned. It's a 9-hour drive. We drove to Detroit from Iowa versus flying, and it's like a 9.5-hour drive, and we got part way, and I said, "There's no way I could stop and sleep." I mean, I'm just, my wife and I were just so wired from the events of the day, and
yeah,
we just kept going, and I think we got home at 1:30, 2:00 in the morning, something like that, and I was wide awake before 8, and I don't know, it was about 8:30 in the morning, and Jim Nugent from Global Golf Post called and said, "Hey, Gene, congrats," and everything. And I'm like, "Oh, he's just wants to talk about the senior amateur and something." And he says, "I got something to tell you." I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And he said, "It was a unanimous vote. You are our player of the year." And I'm thinking, senior player of the year. And
sure.
He goes, and he kind of goes, "I don't mean senior player of the year." He goes, "You are the player of the year." And I go, I mean, those words, I don't think I'll ever forget them. I mean, I just kind of choked and went, tears welled up in my eyes instantly. And I said, "Oh, Jim, there's got to be, I'm 59 years old. There's a lot of great young players out there." And he goes, "No, what you did this year, that's unbelievable." He says, "You're our player." And I thanked him over and over again. But he swore I couldn't tell anybody. So I kept that a secret for a couple months or so.
Yeah.
But so that's just, I can't even, I don't even know what to say about it. It's, it's kind of like the rest of the year. Everything's kind of leaving me speechless.
Well, I know that when we did our episode back then, you like to kind of give credit and praise to a lot of the people around you that have helped you along the way, whether it's instructors, whether it's friends and competitors, and obviously your wife Delana, where she's going to be a feature in this episode. Just to prepare you, we're going to be talking a lot about her because. As the article that Sean Fairholm wrote for Global Golf Post, she might be the captain of Team Elliott. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. I mean, she deserves most of the credit of anybody. So, I mean, I couldn't have done half of what this year that we did without her and with her support.
Well, you kick off this great year. One thing, obviously the 2 massive wins, but really was a very consistent year. I think that's one of the telling things. I mean, and the other thing is that it's just a lot of travel. I mean, I'm looking at everything you've played in that this year, and I mean, there's at least 15. Does that sound about right? At least 15 tournaments. I mean, you really kind of get the year started off with the Jones Senior at Sea Island. So, you have a runner-up finish there. We'll talk about who clipped you later on at the Jones Senior. And then you pick up your first win at Golf Week Senior Amateur, and have a handful of tournaments leading up to the Senior Amateur over there in the UK. I'm guessing that even before you hit your first practice ball of 2021, knowing how you prepare for something like this. It's not like you're kind of waking up, in the winter of 2020 and saying, "All right, I got to get serious about this golf thing. I'm getting older, and I gotta start working hard." You already have had great success. You already work hard, but do you remember kind of in 2020 maybe how you were looking forward to 21 and what you were going to maybe instill in maybe a practice, regimen or fitness regimen? What were your thoughts going into that year about, okay, how do I make this year really special?
I've been so close over in the British Senior, um, and I felt like I've had opportunities at the U.S. Senior, but just hadn't got. I think the Sweet 16 is the farthest I had gotten, and those two tournaments were the biggest ones on my radar for 2021. I think I continue to do my fitness and things like that. Tried to, just stay with that, with what I'd been doing, and just maybe do a little bit more of it and get better at it. Worked with Kenny Shaw a few times, getting ready for things. I actually saw him just a couple weeks before the U.S. Senior. And I think it really helped. But in general, it didn't change much. I didn't things have been working, pretty good. I just hadn't got over the threshold of the two biggest events in senior golf we play.
Yeah.
It was quite a commitment to go overseas this year, and the travel you talked about. My wife, it seemed like we packed a bag in May, June, and we unpacked it sometime in September. So it kind of seemed that way, because it was like the first part of October, and we kind of looked at each other like, we don't have anywhere to go. We don't have any, what do we, we spent like a week kind of looking at each other like we're just kind of here right now, and it was kind of a shift of gears, kind of, we're not going to jump on that travel bandwagon for a while. So, but we had a great time. We met a lot of great people, got to experience a lot of things. I mean, who's ever quarantined? I mean, we quarantined in downtown London for 5 nights, 6 days. And, that was a different experience.
I have to really ask about that, because you're talking about this British Senior Amateur at Ganton Golf Club in North Yorkshire, and like you said about this quarantine, look, everyone is guilty of going and playing golf somewhere in adverse conditions when nobody would play. I mean, I think back to that great USGA commercial many years ago with the the single that's sitting out by the snack shack, and it's just pouring rain, and he's just like not giving up hope, and then the guy comes over, he's like, "Hey, you single?" Like, "Sure am, it's gonna let up." We all have had that idea of like, I'm just gonna play golf in any weather. We've all driven 4 hours to find a golf course, or camped out overnight, or played 36 in the rain. But I don't know many people that would say, okay, I'm gonna travel across the pond, I'm going to quarantine for a week because I got to get over there, because this is a tournament that's on my list. It's been, not the bane of your existence, but you've been close and you wanted to win it. And you're like, most people are probably thinking, it's a COVID year. It's too much hassle. I'm not going. You're one of only 2 Americans that actually went over. And what was the decision process? Was it even a decision? You just knew you had to go? You knew, whatever they threw at you, you were just going to do it anyway?
No, that definitely wasn't the case.
Okay.
It's an interesting story, actually. My good pal, David Nelson, who lives in Colorado now, he had been calling over there and doing the research on the quarantining and kind of all the legwork for he and Delana and I to go over. And he said, hey, they have a 5-day early release. You just have to have one extra test. And you got to get tested before you leave. When you get over there, you got to have a test. Then you got to have another test after day 5. And then you can go, as long as they're negative tests.
Right.
And the issue was they don't have a lot of 24-hour testing over there. There's only, a handful of places in all of London that does 24-hour testing. So he kind of researched and trying to find out, how we could do this. And where to stay, and then, get up to Ganton in time for the tournament and all these things when we need to leave. So we were with Dave the week before in LA at the George Thomas at LA Country Club.
Yeah.
And so we got together in the hotel room one night, and we're calling over to England and booking our tests and everything. And then all of a sudden it just seemed kind of funny, this place we were booking stuff at. And my wife, she can find stuff on Google and research stuff really quick. And after we had spent $500 or $600 lining up all these tests and everything, she Googles and finds out that it's a scam.
Oh no!
They're just taking people's money, and we're like, oh crap! So we had to cancel our credit card and do all this stuff, and so she got to researching, and she found some legitimate places for us to go get our day 2 test and our day 5 test, and then we kind of made the decision right there. Okay, we're gonna go. We're gonna do this, because I mean I had entered and all that, but to actually go through all this and sit in a hotel for 5 days and it was kind of so. We got lined up with our testing and everything, and we flew home from LA, and we had 1 day to regroup and then get on a plane and fly to England. So we got home, we took our tests right away, and we decided to take 2 tests. We went to Walgreens and got a test, and we went to Doctors Now to get a test, because we didn't.
Right, you don't know. At this point, you're thinking, I don't trust anything.
Yeah, and we just, so anyhow, it's the night before, we had test negative, both of us, and Dave calls us, and we were in the car driving, and Dave calls up and he goes, I'm out. And we're like, what? You're out? He goes, yep, I tested positive.
Oh,
I'm like, oh my God. I say, you're kidding us. Come on. You're he goes, nope. And I swear I could hear a crack in his voice. Right. It was, very upsetting to him. And Dave loves to play the British senior over there, just loves it. And he goes, nope, I tested positive, I'm out. And we're just like, oh crap. Because Dave kind of is the one that was the spearhead of this whole thing.
Right.
And so we hung up with him, and I looked at my wife, I said, should we really be doing this? I mean, I don't know if we should we just not go? We got no idea what's going on over there.
Well, and now the immediate thing that I'm thinking about, Gene, is you were just around him at the Thomas in California. So if he tested positive, maybe your test that you just took is going to come back positive also.
Exactly. But he said that his wife, he was back home and his wife wasn't feeling well, and he had been with her before he went to LA.
Okay.
So Dave was fine. Dave's, he didn't seem sick at all. And he said he felt good. And after it all happened, it could have been a false positive.
Sure.
We're not sure. But anyhow, so, I mean, give it to Delana. She said, let's go. Let's do this. And I said, you sure? And she says, yep, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. So the next day we get on the plane, and it pours in Des Moines, just pours. And it's pouring in Chicago, because we're connecting in Chicago and then flying to Heathrow in London.
Right.
And we sit on that plane for 2 hours in Des Moines, and the weather gets better in Chicago, and our flight takes off for London without us. And I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. We're already having problems. We haven't even left Des Moines yet.
Right.
And so we get to Chicago. They rebooked us on a British Airways, because we had to get there because you leave one day in America, it's the next day when you get there in England.
Right.
We had to get there the next day to get our days in quarantining before the tournament started.
Right.
And so they booked us on this British Airways flight, which was awesome. We got over there, went the day we needed to, and we went straight to the hotel, and I mean, there we were. the next day, we got up, we walked to our testing. It was about a 15-minute walk, and you feel funny when you're quarantining. You feel like you got a target on you or something.
Right.
But walking through, we've been vaccinated. We've done everything we're supposed to do, but walking through London, I'm like, geez, half the people are wearing masks and half of them aren't, and I'm thinking it's really locked down over there, and it was. I mean, a lot of restaurants were closed, a lot of things were probably different than normal, but we walked to our testing and got tested and walked back, and but all the food we were staying in a Hilton DoubleTree, a nice hotel, and the restaurant there was closed. Okay. So all of our food we had brought in with Uber Eats, and they have a thing called Deliveroo over there, and I'd run down in the lobby and get our food and run back up to the room, and the UK government, they called our phones twice a day, each one of our phones.
Wow.
And they were on top of it, and they know where you are by pinging and calling your phone. So, and they,
oh my God.
I mean, about 10:30 every morning, she'd get a call, then I'd get a call, then about 3 p.m, she'd get a call and I'd get a call. And it was that way for 5 straight days.
I mean, you guys were under this doesn't sound like quarantine, Gene. This sounds like house arrest.
Well, I mean, you were afraid to, we were just, we don't know. We've never done this before. Right. So, about the only thing exercise we do is we walk the stairwell in kind of the fire escape stairwell. We'd walk up and down it. There was nobody in it around it. It was like a 12-story hotel, and we just walk up and down a couple times a day, trying to get some. And I'd swing an 8-iron inside the room for 10 minutes and hit 10 minutes worth of putts. And I mean, what else do you do? But I tell you, Wimbledon was on, so we watched a lot of tennis. The European Cup, which England hadn't won in 40 or 50 years, that was going on, and England was having a big run in that. So you kind of get acclimated to what's going on in England. But it was an interesting experience, and people go, "Oh my God, that must have just, it must have lasted forever." I said, you know what? It kind of went by fast. We'd do yoga in the room, and we'd, kind of do stuff, and it I don't know, we somehow got through it, and but we were so nervous to get the results of the testing, and then day 5, we had a 7 a.m. Testing appointment, and it was like a 30-minute drive, and we were going to get tested, and boom, we were going. We weren't going to wait for the results. I don't know if we were supposed to do that or not, but we were getting the heck out of Dodge and heading up. It was about 4.5-hour drive north of London.
Right.
Again was. So we went and got that tested. Boy, 7 a.m. There was already about 7 or 8 people in line, and we got our test, and we took off north, and we couldn't play Ganton that day, so we played a little public golf course nearby, and then the next day we played the practice round, and boom, the tournament starting the following day. So just getting to the tournament was like victory. So
that's just, I mean, it's not to cut you off, but it's first of all, you're going over there, and this is obviously not the ideal way you want to prepare for a tournament. You're basically, I mean, what is it, at least a week before you've touched a club and actually hit a shot?
Yeah. My wife bought these little foam balls for me to hit in the, and I never really hit them. No. We didn't have enough room in the hotel room, but yeah, that's definitely not the way to prepare for a golf tournament.
I mean,
and it kind of showed the first couple of rounds. I didn't know the course well enough. I hit a few too many drivers off the tee. where I should have been kind of laying up and that kind of thing, which it took me a round or two in the tournament to learn that. And I started hitting more hybrids off the tee and stuff. So, but you know, it all makes for a great story. And,
oh my God.
And, you know, actually, Jim Nugent with Global Golf Post, he before we went over, he said, would you kind of like do a little blog or kind of keep a record of what you got going on? And I said, yeah, you know, I don't know, want me to write, but whatever you want, I'm happy to do it. I'm going to have a lot of time on my
I was going to say,
so,
the first 5 days of the blog are pretty much the same, Jim. It's not...
you know, so every couple of days he would text or email me, you know, what's going on, or, you know, how's it going? And so I'd kind of, you know, just write a couple of sentences to it. And, you know, Ganton's a heck of a golf course. They've had a Ryder Cup and a Walker Cup and a Curtis Cup, and it's a really good golf course. And I knew the scores were going to be high. Brady Exper had won the British Senior there, I think in 2014 or 15 at 11 over par. So I knew the scores were going to be high. We had pretty good weather, especially the last 2 days, and so the scores were a little bit better than that other year they played it there. But I had gotten I was you know, I kind of was coming from behind the whole tournament, it seemed like. But I told Jim Nugent that I said, you know what, I think if I can shoot 70-70 the last 2 rounds, I got a good chance. And par 71. And if, you know, crazy things, I shot 70-70 the last 2 days and won by a shot.
Yep.
But the last day is something, I mean, you just can't make some of this stuff up. I start out one behind in the last group in a twosome, and I hit hybrid off the tee. The guy hit driver into the deep pot bunker off the tee. He had to pitch it out sideways. I hit it in there about 3 feet. He ends up making double bogey. I make birdie. It's a 3-shot swing on the first hole. So now I've got the lead. The third hole, they moved the tee up about 80 yards. It's par 4, so you could drive the green. I knock it on the green about 20 feet. I knock it in for eagle. So I'm 3 under through 3, and I said, "This is my golf tournament.
Yep.
I'm you know, it's mine to win or lose." I get around to 10. I birdied the 10th hole. Now I'm 4 under through 10. I'm not looking at scores. My wife has her phone with the scores, but I never asked her. I'm figuring I've got a 4 or 5 shot lead. I'm just guessing, but so, you know, I'm plugging along. I'm just going to play conservative. But the last 4 holes again are tough. They are really good golf holes. So I know this thing isn't over yet. The 14th hole is not a tough golf hole, and I just make an awful bogey on it. So, well, that wasn't good. But then the 15th hole, I struggled to make bogey on it, and I made bogey. And then 16, I made bogey. Now I know I'm in trouble. I've kind of let the field back into it. I don't know where I stand, but the 17th hole is 235-yard par 3. It's a tough hole. I hit an awful hybrid, flared it off to the right. I've got a difficult pitch, about 20 yards over 2 different bunkers to a tough pin. I hit a great little pitch shot to about 12 feet, and I give the ball to my wife. She goes and cleans it, and I see her look at her phone, and she doesn't say anything to me, you know, when we're playing golf. And she's caddying for me, pulling the trolley.
Right.
She hands me my ball, and she goes, "You need to make this."
Whoa.
Wow. Okay. I you know, I don't know. She didn't tell me where I stood, but
right.
Anyhow, I knocked it right in the middle. Best I felt over a putt all week there. And
wow.
said, okay. We walked to the 18th tee. I said, "Where are we?" She goes, "You got a 1-shot lead." I go, "Okay." So I hit it out in the fairway, and it's not over the guy I'm playing with. It's a guy in the group ahead.
Right.
and I hit it out in the fairway. So did my playing partner, and we're kind of getting ready to hit our second shot. I look up by the green. It's a real long green, and there's like 3 bunkers on the right side of the green, and that's where all the gallery and people are standing. And I look up there, and there's a lot of people moving around on the right up there, and I'm kind of like, I wonder what's going on up there. And all of a sudden, a guy runs out in the middle of the green with his just spread eagle standing there for us to stop. And he's standing right in the middle of the green, hands up in the air. And I look over at my playing partner. He's over the ball.
Oh,
he didn't see it.
He doesn't see it. He's locked in.
And I see an R&A official. He's beelining it right for this player, but he's not saying anything. And I just go, something's messed up. And I just yell, stop. And the guy jumps away from the ball looking at me. And the R&A guy goes, thank you. He said, there's a gentleman has collapsed in the bunker and he's not moving.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Some guy's got, had a heart attack and he's going to die right, up there. And I'm like, oh. And it kind of makes golf not so important all of a sudden.
Right.
And the R&A guy goes, we're going to be here a while. He said, can we get you something to drink? Can we get you something to eat? And I'm like, I just want to hit it on the green 2-putt and get out of town. And after about 10 minutes or so, they said, there's a doctor there. The gentleman is moving now. And, we're just going to have to wait. And I'm like, fine, but I mean, how do you kill time out in the fairway? And I had an 8-iron into the green. I must have swung that thing 40 times.
Right.
And after about 25 minutes.
Oh my God.
25 minutes out in the fairway there, the guy, they got a stretcher and they took him to the hospital, and the R&A guy says, okay, play away. And he hit, and then I hit it perfectly 20 feet left of the hole, and I putted it down to 6 inches and tapped in and got out of there with the win. So we hung around, drinking beers with a lot of the English friends of mine and Scottish guys over there, and we were having a nice time. And all of a sudden, the gentleman that had collapsed in the bunker, he had just fainted. He didn't have a heart attack. Okay. He just kind of fainted. He came back to the course to apologize to me, and I'm like, sir, you don't have to apologize. I'm just glad you're not dead. It was just, and he was all, we got a picture with him, and he was all dirty, and he kind of cut the bridge of his nose when he fell. Right. And he was about a 70-year-old gentleman and very nice. And he just felt horrible that he had, and I'm like, no, please don't apologize. And the English guys they're like, we threw everything at you. We had guys diving in the bunker and stuff, trying to stop wind. So, I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. I mean,
no.
From the quarantining to the guy, fainting in the bunker, it was an unbelievable trip. So, just wild.
And then the other thing that people probably don't realize or remember, it's you didn't go home after that. You played in the senior British Open 2 weeks later, didn't you?
Well,
or did you go back home? No,
we stayed.
I was gonna say, you can't come back in quarantine again. Can't do that.
No. We were there for the duration, and we went to the Belfry and spent 5 or 6 nights at the Belfry, and then drove back down to London, Windsor area where Sunningdale is, and then then they had strict COVID protocols at the Senior Open, had to get tested again and get your credentials and all these things for COVID. And, my wife and I both had to go through it. We got tested a lot when we were over there. And I forgot to say, in the middle of the British Senior Amateur, after the second round, we had to drive to Leeds, which was an hour and a half away, to get our day 8 testing. That was part of the
God.
we still had to. It was the only place within a couple hundred miles that had 24-hour testing. So it was. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, and which is so crazy about that. I mean, we're talking. I mean, you got the quarantining beforehand. You're playing a course you really don't know very well. Also, it's completely different golf than probably what you're used to. I know you've played in the British Senior Amateur many times and played in the Senior Open, but still, you're doing it once a year, basically, maybe twice. And then you throw in the guy fainting and all these things. I know you have a team behind you, and where you've talked a little bit about your fitness, but what about mental approach? I mean, what do you draw on in situations that, I mean, obviously not like this is probably the first time you're facing anything this crazy, but what do you find yourself drawing on mentally during situations when, like you said, 4 under through 10, and then things are starting to get shaky? You got to right the ship. You have distractions. What do you draw on? What can people draw on, to get themselves through difficult situations like this? Breathing exercises. I mean, what does Delana say to you in a situation in those 25 minutes? Are there things that she's talking to you about? I mean, how do you?
I really tried to not get off focus. I was sad for the gentleman. I
Sure.
really didn't want anything to happen to him. Delana started to talk to some people in the gallery, and she got kind of, chatty. And I was like, honey, we gotta still focus here. We're in a groove here, and we got to stay in it.
Right.
No matter what's going on. And she completely understood. And the people she was talking to, they said, hey, we'll let you go. And so, we just stayed in that focused mindset, I guess. When we talk about the U.S. Senior Amateur, something kind of happened there towards late in the match mentally that we can talk about. But I don't know. I think in golf you learn what works and what doesn't. I've lost so many times in this game that to win some is just it's just so special. But I don't know. I think
sounds like it's just experience. You just kind of you're just drawing on previous experiences and previous close calls where you're just not letting anything else in. I mean, I think yeah.
And I think getting into a routine, we got into great routines over in England. We got into great routines in Detroit, and I think just staying in that routine and that mindset just really helped. So I'd have to attribute it to that.
Yeah. You come before the U.S. Senior Amateur at the Country Club of Detroit. You obviously got to come back to Iowa because there's business to tend to there. And I couldn't help but notice that you have a runner-up finish at the Iowa Senior Amateur. You've no stranger to winning that, but man, I mean, McCoy beat you by 1. I mean, that if we want to talk about any part of the year that's just gnaws at you, Uncle Mike McCoy clips you by 1 at the Iowa Senior Amateur. Can you believe the nerve of this guy? This is your year, Gene, and he does that to you?
Actually, he clipped me a bunch this year. I finished second to him in L.A. at the George Thomas. And then out at National Golf Links in the singles, he beat me on the last hole there. So, by the time the U.S. Senior round, it was payback time.
I figured you were kind of tired of his nonsense. Now, he's not invited to Thanksgiving at your table, is he? He's not. You're not.
No, we won't be together on Thanksgiving. Well, not that he's not invited, but
well, I know you guys have played a lot of golf together as partners in 4 balls, and another legend out of Iowa that has had great success. And Yeah, I when looking at your year and seeing some of the finishes, I was like, oh boy, I can't believe. Well, not surprised at all, but just thought that was funny. Now you go to the U.S. Senior Amateur, and this is again, you've got one off the list this year, and this is another one that has eluded you for many attempts, and this is another one that you want. And you get out there to Michigan, and obviously much different situation than the British Senior Amateur. You're in your home country. You're in the Midwest, and you get through. As you said, you've had trouble getting to that Sweet 16 point of that championship. You get through stroke play, round of 32. Who do you play? Mike McCoy.
Yep.
Mike McCoy in the round of 32, and I'm guessing. Well, you tell me. You don't want to get too up for a match because winning the round of 32 doesn't win the championship for you, but you got to get through that. But you see that you got McCoy going into that match. Man, where do you start with that? I mean, how do you not look across to the guy you're playing with and flashbacks to all the memories and all the championships and all the time, and how do you just kind of keep the blinders on and say, I got to get through this match. I don't care who it is. I got to get through this match.
Well, that's basically it. When you play Mike, if you don't play well, you're done. He's just too good and too solid. And in the U.S. Senior, you're gonna, I knew it was going to be a battle. I knew it was going to be just tougher nails and. We joke with each other. We travel thousands of miles to play each other,
right?
And when we live, 10 minutes apart. So, and it just seems like this year was more than most that we had to battle head to head. So, it was more like just here we go again. You better play good or you're going to go home. And I was just fortunate enough. To somehow come out on top in 19 holes.
And then your big reward for beating Mike McCoy in the round of 32 is you get to play Doug Hansel, who is another guy that's clipped you more than once in 2021. And your big reward for beating a U.S. mid-amateur champion in Mike McCoy is getting to face a former U.S. senior amateur champion from 2013, Doug Hansel. It just doesn't get any easier at this point, does it?
Yeah, that's a hard day. That's a tough day. You don't wish that one on your worst enemy.
I was going to say that's a full day. I mean, that's wow.
Yeah, no, Doug, it's kind of like the same thing with Mike. Boy, if you don't play good, you're going to go home. And I think this year he got me at the Jones Cup, finished second, and also played at Timuquana in Jacksonville, and he beat me by a shot there. So he had got me twice this year already, and I same thing. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but I got him. I think one up after 18. So that's a full day right there.
Full day. I know you make your way into the final, and this is what you've been working so hard for many years. I know in the final match, you never lead until the very last hole. You win 18 to win one up over Jerry Gunthrop, and it's kind of a takeoff of a previous question, but you're kind of like heading into the match against McCoy or heading into the match against Hansel. This is what you've worked so hard for. I mean, this is it. This is your one shot. You never know if you're ever going to get another opportunity to be in a final of the U.S. Senior Amateur. How do you put yourself in a position to succeed, knowing what's on the other side of it, whether it's hoisting the trophy or having the disappointment of being a runner-up? Do you remember the night before? Do you remember kind of, you and Delana talking, like, how do you mentally get yourself in that position to play your best?
Yeah, we were staying at a house of a friend, and I had my caddy from Seminole in Detroit, Adam Hansen, And the last 3 nights we went to the same Italian place, and I ordered the same thing all 3 nights, and spaghetti and meatballs. And
got to carb up. You got to carb up, Gene.
yeah. And you'd been through 5 matches to get to that point, plus the qualifying, plus the practice rounds. And I think I hadn't been to a national championship final since the 1980 Western Junior.
Oh my gosh.
We don't play a lot of match play, so
right.
to be in a national championship final, it's just something you haven't done very often. And I give credit to the routine that Delana and Adam and I had. We left a little early each morning, a little extra early than normally I would, to get to the course a little earlier and have breakfast and kind of get ready and prepare. And I'll be very honest, I was very nervous on that first tee.
Yeah.
And I know Jerry was too. And they start listing off all the exemptions the champion will receive.
Oh,
and they
God.
they got trophies sitting right there on the first tee, and the crowd is all right there. And they did a nice 10-minute introduction of the USGA and the senior amateur and everything right there. And I thought, hey, I was teary-eyed. I was teary-eyed walking down the first fairway.
Wow.
And just to have this opportunity was so special. And having my wife there and Adam on the bag, and it just very lucky. I couldn't be any more lucky. And when I got to Detroit, I said to myself, hey, you've won the British Senior. Just go out here and have fun. Don't worry if bad things happen, they happen.
Right.
If you don't play well here, it's okay. You got a British, no big deal.
You're playing with house money. You've had a phenomenal year. You're thinking, hey, this is just gravy. If I can somehow just, make something happen here, as far as I get, it's just going to be icing on the cake of a great year. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
But as I won a few matches,
uh-huh.
I actually forgot about the British. I really forgot about it. I was just kind of in the moment. I was very in the moment there, and it never once crossed my mind that if I won this thing, I won both in the same year. Never crossed my mind the whole week.
Interesting.
And I played Jerry. I hit a good drive on one. I hit a decent shot in there. He had missed the green, chipped up to 15 feet. I putted it down. He gave me the putt. So he's got a 15-footer for par in the first hole. And I thought to myself, all right, we're going to win. We're going to win this hole. We're just going to start rolling, and we're just going to roll to victory here.
Uh-huh.
And he knocked that 15-footer right in the middle of the hole. And I went, uh-oh. We're gonna have a battle today. I can see it, under all the pressure and everything. And he looked good knocking that putt in. And I thought, uh-oh, we're gonna have a real battle today, and we did. And I just could never get up on him. We both played very solid, and we got to the 16th hole all tied, and he had a big gallery following him, all Michigan people, being his home state, and I had a very small gallery, being from Iowa. So they were pulling for him, which is fine. But we got to a good par 3, and he was already in the hole with 3, and I had about a 2.5-footer for 3, and I missed it to go one down, and the whole crowd went, oh, in a good way for their guy.
Right.
And I was devastated, but I wasn't defeated. And I walked to the 17th tee, and I walked to the far side of the tee where no one could go because there's like fescue over there.
Right.
And I just kind of walked into the fescue, and I had a little meeting with myself, and I said,
Uh-huh.
okay, that was really bad, but these last 2 holes, you must hit it in the fairway, and you must hit good shots. This 17 was a shorter par 5, but there's fairway bunkers out there, and then 18 was a really good hole with fairway bunkers, and I said, put it in the fairway on these next 2 holes, and you still have a chance. They're not easy holes. And I hit it in the fairway on 17. He missed it in the rough, kind of had to lay up. His third shot left like 50 feet. He 3-putted. So now we're all even with 1 to go. A whole new ball game. And I hit a great drive right down the fairway on 18. He hit it in the right rough. I hit a good shot in there, middle of the green. Pin was tucked right over a bunker. He hit a shot, and as soon as he hit it, the crowd just went, yelling and clapping and everything. And I went, oh my gosh, where did he hit it? And I'm walking up to the green, and I'm looking. I'm like, I don't, is there a ball right by the hole? I can't tell. And I'm looking, and I could see a ball mark right on the back fringe. I thought, he caught a flyer and went over the green. And sure enough, he did. And he had a real difficult chip with a lot of break, and he hit a pretty good chip down to about 12, 13 feet. And I had it about 25 feet, and I putted it down to gimme length. And so here we go. He's got a putt to keep it going or not. And he hit a nice putt. It just didn't go in. And all of a sudden, it's over. Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
First time you're up in the whole match, and it's all over. And I hugged Adam and my wife, and just I think I was in shock.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
It was just such a tough match, and I felt bad for Jerry. Jerry's a nice player. I had played with Jerry before in a tournament or two, and I knew he was a really good player. So I felt bad for Jerry, but what a thrilling experience. The whole day, the whole week, the whole year. Yeah. I mean, what more? Just can't even believe it. I think my wife and I are still pinching ourselves here with Thanksgiving. So,
and I'm guessing that drive back is very similar. You just can't even sit. Yeah, like you said, you can't even sit still. You can't even. Just so different, because most of your matches are a back and forth. You have the lead, you lose it, you have it. You never had the lead. You had to fight the entire day, and then, like you said, you win one hole, or you win the very last hole, and now it's over. And I'm guessing the rest of the evening's just a complete blur.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we just drove back, and I gave my phone to my wife, and she spent the first 4 hours of the drive replying to text messages.
Oh my God.
Just a few people called in the middle of that, but I mean, I said, honey, you just you
take care of it,
and I'll write say the reply, and you type it and send the and it was what a wonderful problem to have. Not that
no, it's right, exactly. I mean, that's
but I wanted to get back to everybody right away, and I had some really cool text messages from people, and one of them actually I got it I think it was the next day. And a Seminole member texted me and said, "Hey, I know you're getting a lot of congratulations and a lot of people, saying congrats." And he says, "But I want you to know I'm down at the Tour Championship in Atlanta." And he said, "I walked up to the putting green, and Rory McIlroy was putting, and he looked up and saw me and said, 'Hey, how about Gene Elliott's big win?'"
Oh my gosh! How cool is that?
That was kind of fun. Jerry, Rory's dad, is a neighbor of mine just down the street here. So, and Rory's out at Seminole quite a bit. So anyhow, that was kind of fun to get that message. And so, yeah, it was just what a year. What a year.
You're going to be pretty popular at Seminole for that pro member, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, that was, that'll be fun next year here. So
You're gonna have those pros maybe send in a letter of application. You're just say, hey guys, listen, my dance card's kind of full. I'm kind of taking a lot of inquiries. Why don't you tell me why you think you'd be a good partner for me this year?
Yeah, no, no, Seminole's a wonderful, wonderful place, and they sent out an announcement, that I'd won, and to the members, and they have been very nice, very nice.
That's really, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Being a member of Seminole, you do something this great, and you go back to your club, your home club, and obviously, anyone that does anything like this, I remember talking to James Pyatt, who won the U.S. Amateur, him going back to his club, and Jensen Castle, the young lady that won the U.S. Women's Amateur, going back to their clubs, and the signs are up, congrats James, congrats Jensen. But as far as amateur golf goes, and the history and just how amateur golf is just baked into the nature of that membership, I can't think of any other place more special than Seminole to go in with what you've accomplished. That has to be just incredible. Every single day you're there playing and seeing members. I mean, McCoy and Spider Miller and Downing Gray, and just the list goes on and on. Nathaniel Crosby. Just that has to be an absolutely incredible experience to go in and just bump into someone else that's done things that you have aspired to do in the amateur game, and now you have that U.S. senior, you have that British senior. I mean, there must be one story you can think of just from since you've won, just walking into the pro shop or walking in for lunch. I guess it's a little bit different now, isn't it?
Well, I've always said that, the great thing about Seminole is you can, go out there and tee it up with maybe 30 different guys that have played in a USGA event.
Right.
And I don't know what the number is, but there's probably 8 or 9 or 10 that have won a USGA event.
Right.
So now I guess, I'm in that category where, you've won a USGA event and an R&A event. So, it just everybody, every single member I've seen and has congratulated me and said such nice things and stuff. And it's really very special. I'm just very appreciative and honored. I'm just honored to be a member at Seminole. So
Sure.
Yeah, it's hard to get much better than that.
I understand. I can only imagine. So I will let you get prepped for Thanksgiving and get yourself. I know the family's coming in, and you have an entire fleet of Uber drivers, I hear, heading to the airports all over South Florida trying to get everyone in there. Dare I ask, what have you thought yet about 2022? I know an encore is. I mean, you're good, Gene, but an encore, that's a tall that's a tall ask to repeat everything from 21. Anything you've thought about so far of 2022, or will that time will just come later?
Well, it's going to be a very busy year. I know that. I just want to be prepared for it, and there's going to be a lot more travel again. Hopefully I don't have to do any quarantining or any crazy stuff like that. So, but with the the exemptions into the U.S. Amateur and the U.S. Mid Amateur and Senior Open, to be able to play in the U.S. Senior Open next year. So it's going to be a busy year, and I'm just going to prepare like I normally do and try and be ready and just, kind of like this year, just see what happens. You can't make it up. So maybe we'll have some crazy stories for you.
I am not going to be shocked at all if I hear some more crazy stories from Eugene.
Guys collapsing in the bunker or quarantining, but we'll have to figure something else out. So,
well, Gene, great stories. I'm so glad you're able to share these with me and the listeners. Unbelievable. What a great achievement in 2021. And like you said, a lot of great things coming your way in 2022. And don't be shocked if we do this again. And it's not going to be 3 years from now. It's probably going to be more current. But as always, thanks for your time and thanks for stopping by the back of the range. Happy holidays.
Same to you, Ben, and appreciate your support of amateur golf and really enjoy your show. And you're very kind to have me on.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Gene Elliott for joining me on this episode here at the back of the range. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go check out thebackoftherange.com to listen to all previous episodes. We'll see you next time here at the back of the range.